If you're over 60 and you've been wondering why your metabolism feels broken, why you're gaining weight even though you're eating less, why your blood sugar is creeping up, why you feel older and more tired every single year, then what you're about to discover might shock you. Because the answer isn't just about what you're eating. It's about when you're eating it. And more specifically, it's about the poison you're consuming in the hours before bed that's literally destroying your metabolism at the cellular level and aging you faster than the passage of time itself. This isn't an exaggeration. This is based on groundbreaking research published in 2025 and 2026 from institutions like Harvard Medical School, the German Center for Diabetes Research, and major universities around the world. Studies involving tens of thousands of people followed for decades, revealing that certain foods and drinks consumed before bed don't just affect your sleep. They fundamentally alter your metabolic function, accelerate biological aging, increase your risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and early death. And here's what makes this so insidious. Most people over 60 consume these metabolic poisons every single night without realizing it. They think they're making reasonable choices. A small snack before bed. A glass of something to help them relax. A late dinner because that's when they're hungry. But what the latest science shows is that the timing of these consumption patterns, combined with the specific substances being consumed, creates a perfect storm of metabolic destruction that compounds over months and years, literally shortening your lifespan and destroying your quality of life. So what you're about to learn in this video is not diet advice. This is metabolic science. Hard data showing exactly what happens inside your body at the molecular level when you consume certain substances before bed. How these substances disrupt your circadian rhythm, impair your glucose metabolism, accelerate cellular aging, promote fat storage, increase inflammation, and fundamentally break the metabolic processes that keep you healthy and alive. You'll discover the exact poisons that are destroying your metabolism. Why the hours before bed are the most metabolically vulnerable time of day, especially after 60. The specific biological mechanisms by which nighttime consumption accelerates aging. What the research says about timing, quantity, and food quality. And most importantly, the complete protocol to eliminate these poisons and restore your metabolic health starting tonight. So don't skip ahead. The most critical information comes near the end, where I reveal the step-by-step evening protocol that could reverse years of metabolic damage and potentially add healthy years to your life. And before we dive into the science, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now, subscribe if you're new to this channel, and drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and whether you currently eat or drink anything before bed. I read every comment, and I'm genuinely curious how many people are unknowingly consuming these metabolic poisons. Alright, let's start by understanding why what happens before bed matters more than almost anything else you do all day. Let's be completely honest about something most people over 60 don't understand. Your metabolism is not a fixed constant. It changes dramatically throughout the day based on your circadian rhythm, the internal 24-hour clock that governs virtually every physiological process in your body. And here's the critical part. Your metabolism is most efficient in the morning and progressively declines as the day goes on, reaching its lowest point in the evening and nighttime hours. This isn't speculation. This is established chronobiology. Research published in 2025 in the journal Nature Communications examined meal timing trajectories in older adults and found something remarkable. As people age, their meal timing naturally shifts later. They eat breakfast later. They eat dinner later. Their midpoint of eating is delayed. And critically, this shift toward later eating is associated with greater physical and psychological illness, multimorbidity, and increased mortality risk. The study followed participants over years and found that for each additional decade of aging, dinner timing delayed by an average of 3.67 minutes. That might not sound like much, but over a lifetime, it represents a significant shift toward eating during the body's biological night, when metabolic capacity is most impaired. Think about what this means. Your body is programmed by millions of years of evolution to eat during daylight hours when you're active, and to fast during nighttime hours when you're resting and repairing. When you eat late, you're fighting against this fundamental biological programming, and the consequences are severe. A groundbreaking study published in January 2026 from the German Center for Diabetes Research found that late eating is associated with profoundly impaired glucose metabolism. The researchers discovered that people who consumed a large proportion of their daily calories in the evening, which they defined as more than 40% of total energy intake at dinner, experienced what they called a harmful double hit. First, they were eating at the time when their metabolism is naturally most impaired. And second, they were delivering the biggest energy load at exactly the wrong time. This combination accelerates metabolic-associated steatotic liver disease, formerly known as fatty liver disease, which affects millions of people over 60 and is a major driver of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and premature death. The study showed that nighttime changes in metabolism, driven by circadian rhythm, create an environment where the liver cannot properly process nutrients. Fat accumulates, inflammation increases, insulin resistance develops, and metabolic function progressively deteriorates. But it gets worse. Research from Harvard Medical School, published in Cell Metabolism, examined exactly what happens when people eat late versus early. They controlled for everything: same amount of food, same calorie content, same macronutrient composition. The only variable was timing, and the results were stunning. When people ate late, even the exact same meal they had eaten earlier in the day, multiple metabolic disasters occurred. Their energy expenditure decreased significantly, meaning they burned fewer calories processing the same food. Their appetite regulation hormones changed in ways that increased hunger, particularly for starchy and salty foods. Their fat tissue showed molecular changes that promote fat storage rather than fat burning. Their body temperature regulation shifted in ways that further reduced metabolic rate, and their glucose metabolism became dramatically impaired. A separate study published in Nature Obesity examined late eating in adults with obesity, prediabetes, or early type 2 diabetes. The main finding was unequivocal. Greater energy intake after 5 p.m. was associated with poorer glucose tolerance, independently of higher body weight, fat mass, diet composition, or total energy intake. Let me repeat that because it's critical. Even controlling for body weight, how much people ate, and what they ate, simply eating more calories after 5 p.m. destroyed their glucose metabolism. The researchers found that late eaters consumed more carbohydrates and fats after 5 p.m. compared to early eaters, and this behavior led to prolonged evening postprandial glucose excursions, meaning their blood sugar stayed elevated for hours. This chronic elevation of evening blood glucose is directly toxic to cells throughout the body. It promotes glycation, a process where sugar molecules bind to proteins and DNA, creating advanced glycation end products that accelerate cellular aging. It increases oxidative stress and inflammation. It impairs insulin sensitivity, and over time, it leads to full-blown type 2 diabetes. Another massive study published in Nature examined night eating in over 41,000 participants from the U.S. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, followed from 2002 to 2018. The findings were stark. Compared with no night eating, the later the timing of night consumption, the higher the risk of death from all causes, from cancer and from diabetes. Eating between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. was associated with the highest mortality risk. But even eating between 10 and 11 p.m. significantly increased risk compared to not eating at night. The researchers identified several mechanisms. People who ate late tended to consume unhealthy processed foods high in sugar, refined carbohydrates, and unhealthy fats. They consumed higher total energy, meaning they ate more calories overall. They experienced circadian rhythm disruption, which has been shown to increase mortality risk, trigger diabetes, and accelerate cancer progression. And they suffered from severely impaired glucose and lipid metabolism, with fat and sugar circulating in the blood at levels and times when the body cannot properly process them. So before we even talk about specific foods and drinks, understand this fundamental truth. Eating or drinking anything substantial in the evening and nighttime hours, especially after 7 or 8 p.m., creates a metabolic environment that promotes disease and accelerates aging. Your body simply is not designed to process large amounts of food energy during the biological night. When you force it to do so, metabolic function breaks down. Now let's talk about the specific poisons that make this problem exponentially worse. Now that you understand why evening consumption is metabolically destructive, let's talk about the first and perhaps most damaging poison that millions of seniors consume before bed: sugar. And I'm not just talking about dessert. I'm talking about any food or drink that contains added sugars or refined carbohydrates that rapidly convert to sugar in your bloodstream. Research published in July 2024 in JAMA Network, open from the University of California, San Francisco, found something absolutely remarkable about sugar and biological aging. The researchers examined how diet affected epigenetic age, a measure of biological aging based on chemical modifications to your DNA that can be more accurate than chronological age at predicting lifespan and disease risk. They looked at thousands of women, both black and white, in midlife, and measured their epigenetic clocks before and after dietary changes. What they found was stunning and has profound implications for anyone over 60. Following a healthy diet rich in vitamins and minerals was associated with younger biological age at the cellular level. The better people ate, the younger their cells looked. But even when people followed an otherwise healthy diet, every single gram of added sugar they consumed was associated with an increase in their epigenetic age. The relationship was dose-dependent and quantifiable. The study found that eliminating just 10 grams of added sugar per day, that's about 2.5 teaspoons, was associated with turning back the biological clock by 2.4 months if sustained over time. Let that sink in for a moment. Every 10 grams of sugar you eliminate from your daily diet could make you biologically 2.4 months younger. But the inverse is also true. Every 10 grams of added sugar you consume, especially at night when metabolism is impaired, is aging you by 2.4 months at the cellular level. The lead researcher stated clearly, "We knew that high levels of added sugars are linked to worsened metabolic health and early disease, possibly more than any other dietary factor. Now we know that accelerated epigenetic aging is underlying this relationship, and this is likely one of many ways that excessive sugar intake limits healthy longevity." Now, why is sugar before bed particularly devastating? Multiple mechanisms are at play. First, insulin sensitivity is naturally lowest in the evening. Research published in Clinical Endocrinology showed that glucose tolerance decreases by up to 50% in the evening compared to morning. This means when you consume sugar at night, your pancreas has to produce far more insulin to handle the same amount of sugar, putting enormous stress on your beta cells. Over time, this leads to beta cell exhaustion and type 2 diabetes. Second, sugar consumed before bed suppresses growth hormone secretion. Growth hormone is released in pulses during deep sleep and is one of your body's most important repair and anti-aging hormones. It's responsible for tissue repair, muscle maintenance, fat metabolism, immune function, and cellular regeneration. When you eat sugar before bed, your elevated insulin levels directly inhibit growth hormone release. This means your body cannot perform the critical overnight repair work it needs to do. Third, sugar disrupts sleep architecture. Multiple studies have shown that high sugar intake reduces deep slow-wave sleep, the most restorative stage of sleep, and increases sleep fragmentation, causing you to wake up multiple times even if you don't remember it. When sleep quality suffers, every marker of health deteriorates. Inflammation increases. Cognitive function declines. Immune system weakens. And metabolic dysfunction accelerates. Fourth, sugar feeds pathogenic gut bacteria and yeast. Your gut microbiome plays a critical role in metabolism, immune function, and even brain health. When you consume sugar, especially at night, you're feeding the harmful bacteria and fungal species that produce inflammatory compounds and metabolic toxins. These compounds enter your bloodstream during the night and circulate throughout your body, damaging tissues and accelerating aging. And fifth, sugar promotes glycation, the process I mentioned earlier where sugar molecules bind to proteins and DNA, creating sticky, dysfunctional compounds called advanced glycation end products or AGEs. These AGEs accumulate in your tissues over time and are a major driver of aging and age-related diseases. They stiffen your arteries. They damage your kidneys. They cloud the lens of your eye, causing cataracts. They destroy the collagen in your skin, causing wrinkles and sagging. And they impair the function of virtually every organ system. So what counts as sugar before bed? Obviously, desserts like ice cream, cookies, cake, candy, and pastries. But also many foods people don't think of as particularly sweet. Sweetened yogurt, even the kinds marketed as healthy. Granola and granola bars, which are often loaded with added sugars. Dried fruit, which is concentrated natural sugar without the fiber of whole fruit. Fruit juice, which is basically sugar water without the beneficial fiber. Flavored milk or milk alternatives, many of which contain shocking amounts of added sugar. Certain whole grain crackers and cereals that have hidden sugars. Energy bars and protein bars, many of which are basically candy bars in disguise. And even certain condiments, sauces, and dressings if you're having a late snack. The cut-off time is critical. Research shows that consuming significant sugar or high glycemic carbohydrates within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime has the most detrimental metabolic effects. If you go to bed at 10 p.m., your last sugar intake should be no later than 6 or 7 p.m., and ideally earlier. Now, before I reveal the second poison, I want to pause and ask you to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. And please, leave a comment below. Are you consuming sugar before bed? What evening snacks are you going to eliminate after watching this? Your comment might inspire someone else to make a life-changing decision. Now let's talk about the second poison. The second metabolic poison that destroys seniors' health is ultra-processed foods consumed in the evening. These are foods that have been heavily processed, stripped of natural nutrients, and loaded with additives, preservatives, emulsifiers, artificial flavors, colors, and industrial seed oils. Think packaged snacks like chips, crackers, and pretzels. Frozen dinners and ready meals. Processed meats like deli meat, hot dogs, and sausages. Instant noodles and packaged soups. Packaged baked goods like muffins, donuts, and pastries. Sugary cereals. And most fast food. A groundbreaking study published in November 2024 in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition examined data from over 22,000 participants in the Molisani study in Italy, a large European cohort designed to study risk factors for chronic disease. The researchers wanted to determine whether ultra-processed food consumption accelerated biological aging. They estimated each participant's biological age using advanced biomarkers and compared it to their chronological age. The results were unequivocal. High consumption of ultra-processed foods was significantly linked to accelerated biological aging. People who ate the most ultra-processed foods had bodies that were biologically older than their actual age. And critically, the researchers noted that these results were weakly explained by the poor nutritional composition of these foods alone, meaning that beyond just being low in nutrients and high in sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, there were other mechanisms causing the aging acceleration. What are these mechanisms? The researchers identified several. First, ultra-processed foods undergo intense industrial processing that destroys the natural food matrix. Whole foods have a complex structure of fiber, nutrients, and bioactive compounds that work synergistically. When foods are ultra-processed, this matrix is destroyed, nutrients are lost, fiber is removed, and what remains is a nutritionally empty shell that's rapidly digested and absorbed, causing blood sugar spikes and metabolic chaos. Second, ultra-processed foods contain chemical additives that are directly toxic to cells. Artificial sweeteners, colors, flavors, preservatives like BHA and BHT, and emulsifiers like carrageenan and polysorbate 80 have all been shown in research to increase oxidative stress, promote inflammation, damage the gut microbiome, and accelerate cellular aging. A study published in 2026 specifically noted that these chemical compounds increase oxidative stress and inflammation, damaging cellular structures and impairing metabolic functions. This constant low-grade inflammation and cellular stress, driven by these toxic byproducts, accelerates the internal aging clock. Third, ultra-processed foods are packaged in materials that leach chemicals into the food. Bisphenol A, or BPA, and phthalates from plastic packaging are endocrine-disrupting chemicals that interfere with hormone function, including insulin and reproductive hormones. When you heat ultra-processed foods in their packaging, as many people do with microwave meals, the chemical transfer increases dramatically. Fourth, ultra-processed foods contain high levels of advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, created during high-temperature industrial processing. Remember, AGEs are the sticky damaged proteins that accelerate aging. Ultra-processed foods contain far higher levels of these compounds than whole foods, and when consumed, they add to your body's age burden. And fifth, ultra-processed foods profoundly disrupt the gut microbiome. Research published in 2025 showed that ultra-processed food consumption reduces beneficial microbial diversity and favors the growth of pathogenic bacteria in the gut. This disruption impairs glucose tolerance by promoting rapid carbohydrate digestion, which leads to blood sugar spikes and systemic inflammation. The altered gut microbiota then produces inflammatory compounds that enter your bloodstream and accelerate cellular aging throughout your body. Now, why is consuming ultra-processed foods in the evening particularly harmful? Because you're combining the inherent toxicity of these foods with the metabolic vulnerability of evening consumption. Remember the double hit I mentioned earlier? When you eat ultra-processed foods at night, you're delivering a massive load of rapidly absorbed carbohydrates, unhealthy fats, chemical additives, and inflammatory compounds at exactly the time when your body's ability to process and detoxify them is at its lowest. The study from the German Center for Diabetes Research specifically noted that most people with metabolic-associated liver disease consumed more than 40% of their total daily energy intake at dinner, and much of this was in the form of highly processed high-carbohydrate and high-fat foods. This combination creates a perfect storm. Your liver, already impaired in its evening metabolic function due to circadian rhythm, is now flooded with toxic compounds it cannot adequately process. Fat accumulates in liver cells. Inflammation increases. Insulin resistance worsens. And metabolic dysfunction compounds night after night. Another study specifically examining older adults found that consumption of ultra-processed foods contributes to the risk of frailty, leading to increased physical weakness, reduced muscle mass, decreased mobility, and loss of independence. The mechanism involves chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, and impaired protein synthesis caused by the poor nutritional quality and toxic additives in these foods. Research published in January 2026 found that older adults whose diets consisted of only 15% ultra-processed foods, rather than the typical 50% seen in modern Western diets, had significantly lower body weight, better insulin sensitivity, healthier cholesterol profiles, and superior overall metabolic health. The message is clear. The more ultra-processed foods you eliminate, especially from your evening routine, the younger your body becomes metabolically and biologically. What should you avoid in the evening? Any food that comes in a package with a long list of ingredients you don't recognize. Anything with artificial colors numbered like yellow 5 or red 40. Anything with preservatives like sodium benzoate, potassium sorbate, BHA, or BHT. Anything with emulsifiers like carrageenan, polysorbate 80, or soy lecithin. Anything with artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, or saccharin. Anything with high fructose corn syrup or multiple types of added sugars. And anything with hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils. The solution is simple in concept, but requires commitment. In the evening, eat only whole, minimally processed foods. Vegetables, quality proteins like wild fish, pasture-raised eggs, or grass-fed meat, healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, or nuts, and modest amounts of whole grains or starchy vegetables if you tolerate them well. These foods provide nutrients that support overnight repair rather than toxic compounds that accelerate aging. Now let's talk about the third poison, one that many people actually believe helps them sleep better. The third metabolic poison is alcohol consumed in the evening, and this might be the most misunderstood substance when it comes to metabolism and aging. Millions of people over 60 have a glass of wine, a beer, or a cocktail before bed thinking it helps them relax. And yes, alcohol does have an initial sedative effect. But what it does to your metabolism during the night is catastrophic. Research published in 2024 examined the effects of heavy alcohol use on fasting glucose and insulin resistance in midlife adults. The study compared heavy drinkers with non-heavy drinkers and controlled for liver and kidney function. The findings were clear. Midlife adults who engaged in heavy alcohol use had significantly higher fasting blood glucose levels despite having similar liver and kidney function to non-drinkers. Higher levels of alcohol use disorder were associated with progressively higher fasting glucose. The researchers concluded that heavy alcohol use may have negative effects on glucose regulation in aging populations and increase risks of type 2 diabetes. The mechanism involves several pathways. Alcohol directly inhibits the insulin receptor and disrupts the signaling cascade that allows cells to take up glucose from the bloodstream. This creates insulin resistance, where your cells stop responding properly to insulin. Your pancreas has to produce more and more insulin to achieve the same glucose-lowering effect. Eventually, this leads to beta cell exhaustion and full-blown diabetes. Another study published in Nature examining chronic heavy alcohol consumption found that it influences gene variants related to insulin secretion and insulin receptor function. People who were chronic heavy drinkers showed impaired late-phase insulin secretion, decreased disposition index, a measure of how well your pancreas can compensate for insulin resistance, and altered expression of genes involved in glucose metabolism. The researchers concluded that chronic heavy alcohol consumption induces beta cell dysfunction and insulin resistance, contributing to the development of diabetes. But the metabolic damage goes beyond glucose. Alcohol consumed in the evening disrupts every aspect of overnight metabolism. First, it impairs lipid metabolism. When you drink alcohol, your liver prioritizes metabolizing the alcohol because it's toxic. This means fat metabolism gets pushed aside. Triglycerides accumulate in your blood and liver. Over time, this leads to fatty liver disease, which affects up to 40% of people over 60 and dramatically increases risk of diabetes, heart disease, and premature death. Second, alcohol increases cortisol during sleep. Cortisol is your stress hormone, and it should be at its lowest during nighttime hours. When alcohol elevates cortisol, it disrupts your entire hormonal balance. Growth hormone secretion is suppressed. Insulin resistance increases. Muscle protein breakdown accelerates. And fat storage, particularly visceral fat around your organs, increases. Third, alcohol impairs the glymphatic system. This is your brain's waste clearance system that operates primarily during deep sleep. It's responsible for removing toxic proteins like beta-amyloid and tau that accumulate during the day and cause Alzheimer's disease. When alcohol disrupts sleep quality and impairs glymphatic function, these toxic proteins accumulate faster, dramatically increasing your risk of cognitive decline and dementia. Fourth, alcohol severely disrupts sleep architecture. Studies using wearable technology have shown that even moderate doses of alcohol, just 1 to 2 drinks, reduce REM sleep by 10 to 15 minutes per night, increase heart rate during sleep by 5 to 8 beats per minute, meaning your cardiovascular system works harder instead of resting, fragment sleep causing more frequent awakenings and transitions between sleep stages, and reduce overall sleep quality even when people feel they slept well. And fifth, alcohol induces nocturnal glucose intolerance. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation showed that consuming alcohol in the evening causes your body to lose its ability to handle any carbohydrates you ate with your meal. Blood sugar stays elevated for hours. Fat burning is suppressed. Fat storage increases. And metabolic damage compounds. The study also found that people who naturally go to bed earlier, called early chronotypes, are particularly vulnerable to the metabolic damage caused by evening alcohol. If you're someone who naturally feels sleepy around 9 or 10 p.m., alcohol consumed in the evening has an even more pronounced negative effect on your metabolism. How much alcohol is too much? Research shows that any alcohol consumption within 4 hours of bedtime significantly disrupts metabolism and sleep. The more you drink and the closer to bedtime, the worse the effects. Even small amounts, 1 drink, have measurable negative impacts when consumed in the evening. And the effects are cumulative. One night might not seem like much, but repeated night after night, year after year, the metabolic damage compounds exponentially. If you're serious about protecting your metabolism and slowing aging, eliminating alcohol in the evening, especially within 4 hours of bedtime, is essential. If you choose to drink, do it earlier in the day with lunch or early dinner, and limit it strictly. But the optimal choice for metabolic health and longevity is to eliminate it entirely or reserve it for rare special occasions. Now let's talk about what you should do instead, and how to create an evening routine that restores rather than destroys your metabolism. Now that you understand the 3 primary metabolic poisons, sugar, ultra-processed foods, and alcohol, let's talk about the complete evening protocol to eliminate these toxins and restore your metabolic health. Because knowledge without action changes nothing. You need a simple, practical system you can implement starting tonight. I call this the Metabolic Reset Evening Protocol. Step 1. Establish a clear eating cutoff time. Based on the research, you should finish your last meal of the day at least 3 hours, ideally 4 hours, before bedtime. If you go to bed at 10 p.m., finish dinner by 6 or 7 p.m. If you go to bed at 11 p.m., finish by 7 or 8 p.m. This gives your body time to digest, stabilize blood sugar, and shift into repair mode before sleep. Step 2. Make your last meal of the day metabolically supportive. Focus on high-quality protein like wild salmon, sardines, pasture-raised chicken, or grass-fed beef. Abundant non-starchy vegetables like leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and asparagus. Healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, nuts, or seeds. And avoid or strictly limit refined carbohydrates, added sugars, and ultra-processed foods. This combination provides nutrients your body needs for overnight repair while keeping insulin levels stable and promoting fat burning during sleep. Protein supports muscle maintenance and provides amino acids for cellular repair. The vegetables provide fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients that support detoxification and reduce inflammation. The healthy fats promote satiety, support hormone production, and provide energy without spiking blood sugar. Step 3. If you genuinely feel hungry before bed, choose a small, metabolically neutral snack. This should be rare if you're eating adequate protein and fat at dinner, but if needed, choose a small handful of raw nuts like almonds or walnuts, a small piece of cheese, vegetable sticks with a tablespoon of almond butter, or a small amount of full-fat Greek yogurt with no added sugar. Avoid anything with sugar, refined carbs, or processed ingredients. Step 4. Eliminate all alcohol within 4 hours of bedtime. If you drink at all, do so with lunch or early dinner, and limit to 1 serving. Better yet, eliminate it entirely and allow your metabolism to heal fully. Step 5. Stay hydrated but avoid drinking large amounts right before bed. Drink plenty of water throughout the day, but taper off 2 hours before bedtime to avoid nighttime bathroom trips that disrupt sleep. If you're thirsty before bed, take small sips only. Step 6. Create an evening wind-down routine that supports metabolic health. Dim the lights in your home at least 2 hours before bed. Bright light, especially blue light from screens, suppresses melatonin and disrupts circadian rhythm. Take a warm bath or shower. The drop in body temperature afterward signals your body to prepare for sleep. Practice gentle stretching, yoga, or meditation. These activities lower cortisol and activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting rest and repair. Read a physical book under warm, dim light. Avoid all screens, phones, tablets, computers, and television for at least 1 hour before bed. Spend time in calm conversation with loved ones. And consider taking magnesium glycinate, 300 to 400 milligrams 1 hour before bed, which supports sleep quality and metabolic health. Step 7. Optimize your sleep environment. Keep your bedroom cool, between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Make it completely dark using blackout curtains or an eye mask. Minimize noise or use white noise if needed. And reserve your bed for sleep only, not work or screen time. Step 8. Track your progress. Keep a simple journal noting what you eat, when you eat, how you sleep, and how you feel. After 2 weeks, review your notes and notice the improvements. This accountability and awareness will help you stay consistent. Now, what can you realistically expect when you implement this protocol? Week 1, you'll likely notice improved sleep quality. You fall asleep faster, wake up less during the night, and feel more refreshed in the morning. Your morning fasting blood sugar, if you check it, may start to decrease. Energy levels during the day become more stable. Week 2 to 4, metabolic improvements accelerate. Insulin sensitivity increases measurably. Blood sugar regulation improves throughout the day. Inflammation markers in your blood decrease. Digestive function often improves as your gut microbiome begins to rebalance. Weight loss may begin, particularly around the midsection where metabolic fat accumulates. And mental clarity and focus improve noticeably. Week 6 to 12, substantial metabolic restoration occurs. Fasting blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C, if elevated, often decrease significantly. Blood pressure may normalize or improve. Cholesterol profile typically improves with lower LDL and triglycerides and higher HDL. Liver function markers, if impaired, often improve as fatty liver begins to reverse. Energy and stamina increase as mitochondrial function improves. And biological age markers, if measured, begin to reverse as epigenetic patterns shift favorably. Beyond 3 months, long-term metabolic healing continues. Your cells' insulin receptors become more sensitive and responsive. Your pancreas works more efficiently with less stress on beta cells. Your liver clears fat and regains normal function. Your gut microbiome diversity and health improve dramatically. Systemic inflammation decreases throughout your body. and your risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and premature death decreases measurably. Research shows that improving meal timing and eliminating evening metabolic poisons can reduce all-cause mortality risk by 15 to 20% or more. In practical terms, this could mean adding 5 to 10 healthy years to your lifespan. But more importantly, it means improving your health span, the number of years you live in good health with energy, mobility, independence, and cognitive function. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, this sounds difficult. I've had wine with dinner for decades. I always have a snack before bed. I eat late because of my schedule. Change is hard. But I want you to consider this. What's harder? Making some adjustments to your evening routine now? Or spending your later years with diabetes, taking multiple medications, dealing with the complications of metabolic disease, losing your independence, and dying earlier than you could have? The choice is yours. But the science is absolutely clear. The metabolic poisons you're consuming before bed are destroying your health at the cellular level and aging you faster than time itself. Eliminating them is one of the most powerful interventions you can make for your longevity and quality of life. So here's what I want you to do right now. First, make the commitment. Write it down. I commit to eliminating evening metabolic poisons from my life. I will finish eating by 6 or 7 p.m. I will eliminate sugar, ultra-processed foods, and alcohol before bed. I will create a healthy evening routine that supports my metabolism. Write today's date and commit. Second, clean out your kitchen. Go through your pantry and refrigerator right now and remove the ultra-processed foods, the sugary snacks, the packaged junk that's destroying your health. Don't keep them in your home. Make it easy to succeed by eliminating temptation. Third, plan your last meal of the day. Decide what you'll eat for dinner tonight and tomorrow that aligns with the protocol. Shop for high-quality proteins, fresh vegetables, and healthy fats. Prepare your meals with intention. Fourth, set a firm eating cutoff time and stick to it. Use an alarm on your phone if needed. When the time comes, the kitchen is closed. No exceptions. This boundary is non-negotiable if you want results. Fifth, track your progress. Start a simple journal today. Note what you eat, when you eat, how you sleep, and how you feel. Check in weekly and notice the improvements. This will keep you motivated and accountable. And sixth, share this information. If this video opened your eyes to the hidden metabolic damage happening every night, share it with people you care about. Leave a comment below committing to the protocol. Your commitment might inspire someone else to change their life. Before I close, I want you to remember something profound. Your metabolism is not broken beyond repair. Even if you've been consuming these poisons for years or decades, when you stop, your body begins to heal. Insulin sensitivity improves. Inflammation decreases. Cellular repair mechanisms activate. Fat accumulation reverses. And biological aging slows or even reverses at the epigenetic level. You have the power to add healthy years to your life starting tonight. Not with expensive supplements or medical procedures. Just by eliminating the metabolic poisons you've been unknowingly consuming before bed and replacing them with habits that support cellular health and longevity. All right, thank you for spending this time learning about the science of evening metabolism and aging. If this video was valuable, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and drop a comment below telling me which poison you're eliminating first. Tell me what time you're setting as your eating cutoff. I read every comment and I'll be cheering you on. Remember, your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond can be decades of vibrant health, energy, and independence. But only if you protect your metabolism starting now. Eliminate the evening poisons. Create a supportive routine. And give your body what it needs to heal and thrive. Your future self will thank you. Stay healthy, stay committed, and I'll see you in the next video.